Good morning. It's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself. So I'm back from Ottawa. I'm back from my week trip, and I wanted to check in and let you know that, things went better than I could have hoped. My motto was going to be that I was going to say yes to everything, yes to life, yes to experiences, and not use my previous chronic illness, not use any symptoms that should pop up as any kind of an excuse ever. So therefore I did. I did things I wouldn't normally do. I ate out at many, many different restaurants where I had to do my best with the menus. I'm sure I ate some foods that I probably wouldn't have. Some weren't grass-fed, grass-finished. They probably were cooked in the wrong oils, these things. But I wanted to make the best of it. I wanted to order every meal and not have to make special accommodations for myself and just do my best. Asking the wait staff, I'm sure it was super annoying, but getting the most of what I wanted with my diet while being out. The next thing is I took my kids to a huge water park with water slides, all kinds of chlorine pools, wave pools, and I normally don't go in. I usually ask my husband to go in because I don't, agree with chlorine. I don't want the chlorine in my system, but I decided to say yes to life and just suck it up and go in. So of course I was in the chlorinated water. I was everywhere, I had a shower that night, but I just decided to say yes. I went whitewater rafting, something that would normally spike up my stress levels. I jumped off a cliff. So something that I would usually say no to, but I decided to just go for it, go on the whitewater rafting trip, jump off the cliff when we got the chance. And they said, does anybody want to jump off? And I did it. So, we can do a lot more than we think we can. And yes, it's important that we try to maintain a stress-free lifestyle. We try to maintain a lifestyle without chemicals, and we try to be good wherever we can, but that we can go out and enjoy ourselves, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the world's going to end or we're going to have a setback. One of the most important things I learned on this trip was to put joy first, and to put my kids first, and happiness first, and just to try to push myself to say yes where I normally would say no. So that went really well. When I finally got to the wedding, I was nervous to see some family who I hadn't seen in a decade, particularly one family member who I thought, should have been there for me and abandoned me. I thought I felt personal, and I did forgive in my heart, but I guess I still was holding on to a piece of it because I just blocked that person from my life ever since. But seeing that person at the wedding was lovely, actually. And it was almost like the decade-long, time that I hadn't talked or seen that person just melted away the instant we saw each other. Had a nice hug, smiles. It felt warm and caring and loving. And I just opened myself to the experience. Never mentioned anything that happened in the past, never mentioned any of it, and just decided to start from today and move forward. But it was actually very comforting, and it felt very filled with love, and it instantly had me, remove any little bits of unforgiveness, any little bits of stuckness, anything that I was still holding on to it, and it dissolved. Because I had done a lot of forgiveness work, and I had mostly gotten there. I had gotten there, but yet I knew there was something was still stuck with the energy around that person, and it dissolved immediately. So that was wonderful, and a really wonderful and lovely surprise that had I said no to going, I wouldn't have gotten to experience. I made a vow to myself not to discuss my illness, period. Not to discuss anything that happened in the past, should the questions come up, not to talk about politics, not to talk about anything going on in the world right now, and definitely not to mention COVID. So I held my promise. I did not speak about any of those things. I let a lot of things go. I just let them go. I just took breaths and didn't respond, didn't react, didn't feel the need to jump in with my points of view until the last 5 minutes of a brunch that we had attended. I was sitting across from one of my cousins who's very, very extremely political and who has probably very opposite points of view on the last couple of years. And I'd say we're pretty far on the political spectrum apart right now. Although in the past I would have said we were fairly close. She really cares about the environment. She really cares about the planet. She's a great mom, great person. So I would say we're very aligned. But however, you know how everything has divided people, and really, it's just a really weird thing right now, the way we are so divided and so polarized. But anyways, I knew she works in the government. She works downtown Ottawa. I knew I shouldn't mention a thing. And it was brought up at the last minute, the protest, the truckers' protest, which she vehemently does not support. And I listened, and I was trying to bite my tongue. I was trying to not say anything, but of course I did have to say, you know, there is another point of view, and there is this, and just started to, and she immediately cut me off and said, well, you don't have to interrupt me, and sort of bit at me to like, that I shouldn't interrupt her. And it stung. It was like a knife going into me. It was very jarring after the week I'd had. It was incredibly jarring, and so I was silent. I let her finish her rant on the organizers of the convoy and you know, use names and all kinds of things. And I just sat still. Now, this conversation, when she continued to talk, probably legitimately was another 7 minutes when I was silent. That's probably how long she went on after she said, don't interrupt me. And those 7 minutes were so interesting that I want to do a video just to talk about those 7 minutes. But I was jarred. I feel like the blood drained from my face. I feel like I was drowning in waves. Like I felt like I was out in the middle of the ocean. I was being thrashed around with waves as I tried to breathe and not speak and just hold my tongue, hold my peace. I felt very unsettled. And you know, like in the movies or in those cartoons, when like the Charlie Brown cartoons and the teachers, wah, 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 wah. I couldn't focus on her words. All I could hear was wah, 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 wah. Because I knew I couldn't engage in her words because not being able to respond back or react back was going to be too challenging. And so it was like I was sinking and spinning, and I couldn't focus on her face. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't hear the words. I felt like I was spinning. I felt like I was in an ulterior universe, in a different world. I was just saying to myself, like, just breathe. No need to respond and react. Like, step back. You're okay. You're safe. You don't need to react to this. Just breathe. Just breathe. But it was very difficult. I didn't know what to say. I could barely breathe, I felt like. And then somebody else came. They were saying their goodbyes and tapped me on the shoulder and, oh, give me a hug, goodbye. And so I stood up because it was everyone's time to leave the hotel, depart. We were all, you know, running late to make it for the 11 o'clock checkout time. So I got up with this other person, walked away from the table, didn't say goodbye, didn't turn around, didn't do anything. Went back to the room to get ready and just felt just horrible after such a positive, amazing experience that I'd had the entire time, and thought like, oh, what should I do? Do I want to people please? Do I not want to make this right? Or should I just hold my ground and not say anything, not say goodbye? So I ended up texting and saying, oh, do you want to meet in the lobby for a quick goodbye? Which I didn't hear back from. So we ended up leaving because I didn't hear back from that. But I did send a very genuine text saying, you know, we may not agree on everything. I'm sure we have a lot more similarities than you think. I should have known better that this wasn't the time to engage in a conversation like that. And I think we're both great moms, great people. We both want the best for the world and the planet. And I hope there's no hard feelings. And so I did get a text back, and it was nice. It was a nice text. So it was sort of like, I felt like I was maybe people pleasing, but I decided to choose happiness and choose family and choose peace over being right. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to say, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Do I want to be right? Do I want to stroke my ego here because I know I have some valid points? Or do I want to let it go and just enjoy, you know, being here and enjoy this moment and enjoy my family and keep peace? And that's what I chose to do. And I reached out. It was a longer email than that, but I did reach out with that sentiment and got a nice response. So I feel good about that. You know, it was a challenging end, but I felt good about reaching out and just making it right, just trying to, it was a conscious choice to people please. It was a conscious choice to make peace. And those are always better than reacting and responding because you think you have to. You know, I had a few minutes to think. I had about 20 minutes before I sent that email. So all in all, it was a great experience. I am back. So now that I'm back, I can post some videos, and I do have a lot of content that I want to talk about. I do have a lot of mind body content that I want to bring up about symptoms, about drawing boundaries about symptoms and chronic illness, and how to really push through and get over some of the ones that really stay with us, stick with us, and are patterns that our brain plays with all day long, right? We want to be able to really look at those patterns and break them. So I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on that coming up. And anyways, if you like this update, if it was interesting at all to you, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video.